Hey, you made it. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I made it too. We're here to co-create a great moment. I'm super pumped right now because I have a guest who's a friend and somebody who I've been working with and is not the usual fare here on live stream of consciousness. The show really started with the guests were psychic mediums and Akashic records readers and people with more spiritually based gifts. But the show has evolved since Jesse left, and we've had all sorts of people on the show. Flat Earth Dave was a breakthrough. That was a great conversation. I was really happy to have that opportunity. But tonight is a little bit different. Hola, Tim. ¿Qué pasa? Good to see you out there. What's up, Jilly? Good to see you. Lily, what's up? Good to see you folks in the front row, always here with your popcorn. I like to see that. I like to feel that energy right off the bat. So I was saying that my guest tonight is a friend and somebody who I've been working with. So I'm going to do a little bit of plugging. I have my Tiedin shirt on. I was doing work today at the studio, and Pete is the guest is who I work with at Tiedin. We do a show with him, so we're going to talk about that tonight. I see everybody saying hello to each other. I love the friendliness we have in the chat. So anyway, do I have anything to talk about before we start? No, I don't think I do. I think I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited that the live stream is starting to get attention from people. People are making comments. People I don't know coming up to me and saying, "Hey, you're that guy. You do that show, right?" And I don't even know who these people are because not a lot of people comment. They just kind of hang out and watch, which is very cool. Everybody's welcome here. Your energy is felt. Your presence is appreciated. So yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that we talk about here, right? Gratitude and energy and all of that stuff. So anyway, tonight's guest is just a little bit different because tonight's guest is actually a stand-up comedian, a professional stand-up comedian, somebody who's been doing stand-up for many, many years and is continuing to do stand-up through the show that we work on. Well, not really doing stand-up through the show we work on, but continuing his career as a stand-up and but continuing stand-up through another venture that he does called Stand-Up University, which I'm going to also talk about. So I'm excited about that. But I think tonight's going to be great because I think a bunch of family is going to be here, some other friends who were just excited when I said Peter Bales is going to be on. Oop, I just gave it away. That's the guest I have tonight. So I guess since I gave it away, without further ado, I'm going to welcome my distinguished guest, Mr. Peter Bales. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Michael Zinn, just listening to you open your show, I am so totally relaxed. You seem so calm and in control. I can't imagine you angry. I'm sure you do get angry, but I can't imagine it. I've never seen it.
I love that.
I love hello to everybody who's watching and the people that are chatting. I love that you have that going on. I love Michael Zinn. I love the idea of this show. And maybe you'll agree with me. I think Michael missed his calling. He should have been a therapist because he solves problems in such a relaxed way that I think that's a special gift. And I'm happy to be here and I trust him and I will follow him anywhere during this show. I have a lot to say. He'll get it out of me, believe me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you excited. This is how you get during your own show, which is great because
I love it.
You get pumped up. This is you, man. This is the authentic you. I'm excited about that, and I'm actually going to show a clip later, which I was delighted to see. I mean, I did a little research on you when we first started working, like, oh, who's this guy? And I said, oh yeah, he had a good career and this stuff, but I didn't watch, and right. I was watching, I was like, wow, he was a little bit rowdier than he is now. He's calmed down in his old age. But anyway, welcome to my happy place. We have some people saying welcome to you. Lily saying welcome. Tim, who is our South American friend, is saying hola, Peter.
Tim, hola. I studied Spanish for 4 years. And Tim, I just want to say, hola, Tim, ¿cómo se llama? And I'm afraid that's it. But I think
so
4 years wasted.
Just so you know, you just said, hello, Tim, What is your name?
Is that what I said?
Yes, that's what you say.
Well, as I say,
Como se llama is how are you called? What is
I'm
your
a
name?
big, I'm a big supporter of public schools, just not when I was going.
And I love that you did that to show your prowess. You know what I mean? That was like perfect.
No, actually, I was pretty good in Spanish in the 1990s. I have a PhD in history. Do you know my field is 20th century U.S. diplomatic history with a
Mhm,
specialty in Latin American relations. I did my dissertation on Latin American relations, and for a while there, I could read Spanish. My speaking was bad,
right.
but boy, have I deteriorated. If I said hello, Tim,
What is your
is
name?
your name?
You know what? Yeah,
I
and I only know that because I also took Spanish for 4 years. But the important thing is to practice. And I worked in a restaurant in the back line, and most of the people back there were Spanish, so I was able to speak Spanish and practice at least for a few years. I'm probably deteriorating also, but I might not. I don't know if I would have said that. At least I knew, and at least I knew what you said. But anyway, I just want to initiate you first, and then get into, and then create the space for you to just, talk about you and your show and what you're doing. But it's the live stream of consciousness, and it's interesting because some people, when I tell them they're going to be on the show or they want to be on the show, they watch the show. And my last guest actually like Googled what is consciousness and did all of this research just so he felt good about his answer. But the question I always ask is, what is consciousness? What exactly is consciousness to you, Peter Bales?
think it's self-awareness. I thought a lot about you, and I'm coming on this show, and I know you're a spiritual person and beyond that. And I pride myself on being evidence-based, educated. But then I wanted to say to you, Michael, stuff happens. Stuff happens. Yes. Science, reality, curb your emotions. But then stuff happens. Stuff has
Mhm,
happened to me. And you asked me one time if I've ever seen a ghost. And Michael, I'm evidence based.
mhm,
I'm educated, but my answer is still yes.
mhm, mhm.
Let me tell you what happened.
Sure.
It was in the
Well, wait a
19th.
sec. So let me just stop you before you go
Yeah,
on with your ghost story. I want to hear the ghost story.
but I
But
mean it. I mean it. I mean,
consciousness is just being aware, and so that led you into this ghost story. So are you saying being aware of, what are you saying being aware of?
well,
Other
being aware
possibilities?
that there is, well, let me quote or paraphrase Shakespeare in Hamlet. There are things we have not dreamt of in our philosophy, Horatio. And what Shakespeare is saying is, we don't know everything and we don't understand everything. And sometimes I think the smarter you are, the more you don't know.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
you need to know what you don't know and be open to new ideas and things don't fit your logical, educated, rational look at the world. And I've had enough things happen to me that I'm open to new ideas and the possibility that we don't know everything, not even close.
right, right. Okay, okay, that's fair. So this ghost story was evidence of that. Tell us the ghost
Well,
story.
I was home for Thanksgiving, and I was at Northwestern University in the 70s, and I was doing a project for my history class. Even though I'll admit publicly now, I was an undergraduate theater major. However, taking a history class and getting interested in history. Um, And it was a project about old New York City. It was a project about the Five Points, a slum in New York City in the 19th century that was probably the worst slum New York City has ever seen. Charles Dickens came over from England and said, "My God, this is worse than anything we have in London." It
Wow.
was just poverty and gangs and, yes, early drugs and alcohol. And it was featured very much in the movie Gangs of New York.
Right.
The
Is that
five
where they had like a famous graffiti like area, 5 points in the city. I think that
Well,
there's
it's interesting you bring up graffiti. I'm sure if it was a slum and there was graffiti, I think I tell my
you quoted,
history.
sorry to interrupt, you quoted, so somebody on Facebook, I think on Facebook you have to like allow StreamYard to see who you are, or else it just says Facebook user, but you quoted their favorite from Hamlet.
I
uh
did. I'm glad.
Whoever that is, Facebook user, you could identify yourself or whatever in the chat.
Um,
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I'm glad. Well, Hamlet's pretty good stuff. I think the jury is in on that. Um, but I always tell my students that Boston, right before the Revolutionary War, was filled with graffiti. Who was doing it? The Sons of Liberty.
Mm, mm,
And that was a gang that was anti-British and rabble rousing for freedom, and that wasn't spray paint, but it was whitewash and a brush on everything that you could write on, criticizing King George III in foul language even back then.
right.
So I guarantee you there was graffiti back in the Five Points.
That's cool. That's got a romance to it, like a V
Yes,
for Vendetta kind of thing, you know?
it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Or how about just King George III sucks? And that's probably what they wrote. Something.
That's hysterical.
Actually, you know what they wrote? I'll tell you what they wrote. Taxation without representation is tyranny, and that's a great slogan.
I remember that lesson from history.
Yes. Now back to the 5 points. I'm doing a project on this slum that was absolutely notorious. Police were afraid to go there, and I had read in the paper that they were demolishing a building, Lower East Side, in the area that used to be the 5 Points, knocking down the last remaining brick building that dated back to that time.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, but I took the Long Island Railroad into Manhattan and the subway down just to watch the demolition.
Hmm.
And I watched as a big one of those demolition balls rolled back and finally went into the brick wall, and it crumbled one shot. I'll never forget. I was standing behind a line. They had it all cordoned off.
Right.
I was like the only one there though, but it was
Hmm.
cordoned off. It was rainy, it was cloudy, it was kind of cold. And the building went down. They didn't even have to do a second one. And
Wow.
and I'm watching this and I'm looking around. There's nobody paying attention. They're construction guys over there. I kind of went around the cordon and I looked down and there was a cellar that was revealed. I grabbed a couple of pieces of pottery from the 5 Points. I had to be old, that old.
Wow.
And anyway, but I took this trip in. Why did I take this trip in? I don't know. I just was studying it, thinking about the people who used to live there, writing about it. I took the trip in and I was there to see the last remaining building. They're building a parking lot or something. And it was knocked down. And it was so quick and it was over and it's done and I'm cold and it's raining and it's freezing. I'm the only one who cared. Nobody's caring.
Right.
And I started walking away back toward the subway. And I'm kind of lost in my thoughts. And I walked a few feet toward the subway and somebody tapped me on the back. I turn around and it's a bum, a really, really poor, sort of disheveled, alcohol smelling, a really big
Right.
bum,
Traditional
really
what you
down on
think
his
of.
luck. I can't just. Do you remember the Jethro Tull album Aqualung? Like that character on that album cover.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
might,
yeah. Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was like that. It was
Wow.
kind of scary. And I'm standing there facing him, and he goes, "Give me $1." And I was so shocked, I actually gave him a dollar, and he grabs it out of my hand, doesn't say thank you, grabs it out of my hand, kind of growls at me, and starts walking down the sidewalk. And I didn't move. I just stood and I watched him. And he walked down to the street and started crossing the street. And behind him, a New York City bus came along. And it was just going a few miles an hour. So the bus, he was probably out of my sight for what, 3, 4 seconds.
Hmm.
But, you know, so the bus crosses. He's 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And when the bus cleared him where he should have been, he was gone.
Right.
And where'd he go? It's 3 seconds. He can't. I ran after him into the street where I last saw him, and I'm standing in the middle of the street looking like, is he down under a car, and he's in a doorway, he was nowhere. He was nowhere. He disappeared. It was impossible to disappear in 3 seconds, but he disappeared.
Right.
And immediately I had the thought, and I believed this ever since, that this was the end of the 5 points. And I was the only one who cared and came to see the end of the 5 points, the physical end of the 5 points. And I believe a ghost of the 5 points came in their own way, in their own poverty, violent way, to say thank you for remembering. And I've carried that with me for the rest of my life.
So that was a feeling that you got.
That's my feeling.
Yeah.
That was a ghost. That was a ghost. You don't disappear in 3 seconds.
But you felt this expression of gratitude towards you.
I did.
Right.
I did.
That's amazing.
In a weird way to express it. But I know that somehow the 5 points came to say to me, thank you for remembering, because we're gone. And you're the only one who cared to watch the final original building go down in a pile of rubble.
That's an amazing story, and what's amazing to me, what's significant to me about that, Peter, is the way that you remember it, and I think the reason you connect it to this kind of knowing was because it was this feeling. It was something inside of you that was just there, and you just knew it, and you didn't doubt it.
It didn't seem like a 1970s bum. The whole thing could it be in my mind? I guess, but it's not. I felt it. I knew it at the time, and I still believe it.
It's great. No, I believe it. I mean, I just heard you tell the story, and I believe it. So before we get into your stuff, which is this far away, or depending on, I guess, your answer to this question, and that might be the answer to the question, is for me the spirituality stuff is just the idea of being spiritual is knowing that you don't know everything. You just said it, right? Is that and that knowing that you don't know everything is kind of alludes to, okay, there's a higher power, right? So whether it be God or whatever that higher power is, we don't know what it is, right? Because it's beyond our knowing. So my question always is, what was there a specific moment that you knew that there was more than you thought, that there was more to existence than just being three-dimensional on this planet, going to work, day to day and existing?
You probably haven't gotten this kind of an answer because, I consider myself both a stand-up comedian and a history professor, which I am. And I did a lot of reading about our founding fathers, and I am in awe of them, how smart they were, very, very flawed human beings, like everybody is. And let's just say up front that, the father of our country, George Washington, was a slave owner, and the author of the Declaration of Independence was a slave owner. That's Thomas Jefferson. And the so-called father of the Constitution, who came up with checks and balances and separation of powers, James Madison, was a slave owner. They were flawed, but they were also creating democracy, something special that had never been done in representative form. Of course, the Greeks really invented democracy back in the 5th century BCE, when they had direct democracy, everybody voting, one man, one vote in person in ancient Athens.
There was only what, like 25 people on the planet, right?
Actually, if you have a population in ancient Athens of about 350,000,
wow,
and you eliminate everybody that they didn't consider a citizen, slaves, aliens from other planets, no, not aliens from other planets, people who were not born in Athens,
right,
women, children, you could get the population down to between 30 and 40,000, and you could
Wow.
carve an amphitheater into a hill, and you
Wow.
could get every citizen voting directly. Should we raise taxes? Should we go to war? Who should be our general? You
Yeah.
know, those kinds of things. But that's not going to work in a country of millions. And we
Right.
are approximately 333 million today. And thank goodness we have representative democracy. And
Mhm.
our founding fathers did this, and it was new and it was special in a world of kings and dictators.
Okay.
And so I'm in awe. So they really are smart guys.
Okay.
They pondered your question. They pondered your question.
Okay.
And the big question that they had, that everybody has, is if there is a higher power who's benevolent and good, how in the world can a roof crash down on an orphanage and kill 15 babies? And
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's the answer to that? And don't tell me God works in mysterious ways. That's not a good answer.
Really? Wow, Peter, really? That's your question? That's is are
Well,
you
no, that's what our founding
Okay.
father
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
pondered.
I
I
was like,
pondered it. I bet you've pondered
okay.
it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah, of
Everybody's
course.
pondered it.
Sure,
And if
sure,
somebody
sure.
has an
Sure,
answer, tell me.
sure. Well,
How?
I
How
mean,
in the world, if
I
there's a
think that
benevolent, all-powerful God, can these tragedies happen around the world to totally innocent people?
well, I think that wow, that's
That's
a great question to address here because I mean I feel like there's a duality to existence. I feel like there is good and evil and and I guess you could say if God is all knowing and benevolent, why would he allow evil? But I think that I think that we've never had a deep discussion about spirituality and our beliefs, but in my belief system, you know, the realm that God exists in is not we can't fathom that. So it's in an energetic form, you know, of it's formless, really, as far as we're concerned, right? Because we're three-dimensional. And the beliefs that we talk about here are that, you know, whatever that energy source inside of us, our soul that's powering this three-dimensional being, this human body, um, this is just a part of that journey, right, in the three dimensions. So before we were born, we existed in some form of energy. We came to earth, became this three-dimensional form of a human being, and we have this existence to have all of these have
and
all
then
these
when we die,
experiences.
we're going back where we came from?
I don't think those. I think language is a bit of a trap, but I think yes, that's the best way to describe it with language. I think that source. If you talk about source energy, to me, I always struggled um with organized religion and the personification of the word God. So
Mhm.
I struggled with the word God for a very very long time. I was just like because of the even with me, the way it immediately brought up a human, a being, a person, you know, you talk about he says this, oh, God says this, and God says that. But I finally came to terms with it by substituting in my head every time somebody would say it, the word universe, like this
Hmm.
the force in Star Wars is God. You know what I mean? This energy that just exists that is omnipresent. Now that doesn't mean benevolent and make everything okay. I think that the stuff that happens here on earth is is to affect all of the witnesses to it and all the people involved, all the souls that are involved in that experience to learn from it and to grow from it, how to be more loving to the other souls that are here. I mean, that's getting really deep into my beliefs.
No, no, it's nice. It's nice. It's
Yeah,
peaceful. Our
yeah,
founding fathers would not have wanted to have been told, we can't fathom that, because they thought and they thought and they thought about this.
right.
And you know what the answer was that they came up with?
What's that's that?
I'll tell you what the answer is they came up with. They became deists. And they were not atheists. Don't let anybody tell you our founding fathers were atheists.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Uh, but they did become deists. And a deist was someone who believed that there is a God, there is a higher power, and this God made the universe.
mhm.
including everything on our earth.
Right.
And they were scientists, and they were breaking away from the Middle Ages, and they were part of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, and they were scientists, and they believed that because God made the laws of nature, God made nature and he made the laws of nature,
Right.
the more they studied the laws of nature, the closer they could get to God.
Right.
And that was why they were so, Ben Franklin, a notable scientist, Thomas Jefferson as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were trying to get closer to God, and they
Sure.
believed in a higher power, but they did not believe in miracles, and they did not believe in a benevolent God with a long white beard and zapping miracles down on earth. They
Hmm.
believe that miracles are possible because they are possible. We see them.
Sure. Sure.
But they believed God made a world in which miracles are possible.
So
And
I'm listening to
let
you.
me just say one more
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing that they
Good.
believe.
Good. Good.
They believe that God finished making the universe, finished making the earth, finished making nature and the laws of nature, and then stepped back and let nature's laws run their course. So God is not necessarily there to save the orphans from the roof
Right.
caving in on them if
Right. Right. Right.
nature had a storm that caused that to happen.
Right.
That seemed to give them an answer to how
Sure.
there can be a God and
And
still
those things
innocent
can
people
happen.
being,
Right.
being hurt.
Yeah. And that makes sense. But you're right. I'm so happy that we're discussing this because listening to you talk from your perspective, and I understand it, and knowing my own perspective, I could see where there might be a disconnect. And I started to say it before when I started to talk about the personification of God, right? But I hear you saying to me that the forefathers were trying to think beyond that and thinking that if God made the universe dot dot dot, okay, but what if God was the universe? That's and here's the thing about that. You're saying, well, what does that mean exactly? That's the idea of that was the other word that I was struggling with, which is faith. And the word faith and the idea of faith is believing in something that you cannot understand,
Proof. No,
right?
proof.
Prove, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So right. Okay. I think that the forefathers could not get past the human ego and think outside. They needed to understand it. Like they needed to put it into a explanation that they can understand. God making the universe still is like God is this. They were still thinking of God as this force, even if it wasn't a human, it was energy swirling or whatever. But God, that's what I'm saying. I needed to, for me personally, I needed to replace the idea of God as a creator of the universe and have God be the universe, right?
Namaste.
And that
Namaste.
and that also helped me to understand the idea that, well, if God is the universe, God is everything, right? God is infinite. All of that stuff applies if you look at it that way. God is infinite. It also explains me being a part of God, because if God is everything, well, I'm a part of everything, right? I'm here in this room, which is everything, and I'm sitting in everything, so I must be a part of everything. So I try to not get too deep, like, oh my God, I've got to find the answer to existence. I accept all of those things I just said, and that's what makes me
But you
calm.
could change your mind as you think.
Sure, sure, I could change my mind, but that's what really that's what brings me my peace and makes me calm and happy, is that,
Right.
I know that the universe is so much bigger than me, and I'm blessed to even be a part of it and exist and experience it. And then if I start to think about some of the spiritual beliefs that they say, you are a essence of God experiencing the universe,
Yeah.
so that God can experience the universe through everyone's eyes. Like it's so much bigger than that. And I know that gets a little woo woo, and I get that it's
No,
like,
but you find peace in the process.
yes.
And one of the best books I've ever written, I wish I wrote it. I read it. It's called Loving the Questions.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you can be in any faith, an organized religion or on your own. But if you love the questions, and it's a lifetime journey. You're asking these questions for your entire life. You're not going to have them answered on your deathbed,
Right.
but asking the questions, I should say, is a peaceful feeling. I think people can believe completely opposite things from you and using the same process as you
Sure.
find the same peace.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I
Absolutely.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
Love
no, absolutely. And that's what and that also right there, that helps me to be so non-judgmental and accept people who find peace in ways that I may not understand. You know what I mean? Like, the strange and wonderful, talking to the lizard man and the dragon lady, I don't understand that existence, but I accept it because look how happy they are or whatever. It's not I don't have
No, no,
to.
no. You accept it, you respect it, and
I
you're happy
respect
to
it.
see somebody happy.
Well, and isn't that accepting it in a way,
Yeah.
respecting it? Sure,
Yeah,
right?
I like to see somebody
Yeah,
happy and
yeah,
provided they're not hurting anyone or themselves, I have respect for people and I don't judge people on their beliefs
yeah,
unless they're harmful somehow.
right.
But, peaceful people, are free to ask questions and answer them in any way they want based upon
Yeah,
their life experience.
and I think that's why I was really interested in talking to Flat Earth Dave and why conspiracy theories interest me. Like, I don't believe in them, but I believe in the idea behind them, you know what I mean? That, hey, maybe things aren't what they seem, or we don't
Things
know
are not
everything.
what they seem. We
Yeah,
keep learning
exactly.
it. We really
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. I just want to acknowledge some of the audience because everybody is has been commenting, and we were just kind of on a roll. I don't like to interrupt, but Tim said, "I feel like kind of bad things happen to help people truly appreciate, enjoy, and cherish the good." And I think that's a part of it. What we were saying, I think that just to take it a little further, Pete, I think for me, everything is an energy exchange. Everything has energy, right? If you think of things on a scientific level, and you break it down to the atom, right? The atom has this energy, and it's moving and it's spinning and all of this, and there's this energy force that holds them together and makes us what we are. And so I think everything has energy, even like a chair, a rock, a tree has a certain energy. And when I sit on a chair, there's an energy exchange between me and the chair. So what I mean by that is, like, I can sit down on a chair nice and calm and comfortable, and it's all comfortable for me on a chair, or I could be in an angry mood and slam the thing around, and there's energy in the air in that interaction, so I think everything is an energy exchange, and that's kind of what we're talking about here and what we always talk about. Dottie said suffering is a perspective personal to the individual. A lot of near-death experience speak of viewing our whole lives before we are born and agree to all its happenings because we chose to evolve the soul. Sorrow and tragedy makes a great catalyst for change and transformation. So that's again kind of goes along with my beliefs that we're energy before we get here, and there's some sort of contract made and some lessons that need to be learned or something that you experience on your journey through Earth, and that may be so here's kind of your question. Maybe my journey is I was conceived by two people who just didn't have an appreciation for life, and the woman got pregnant, and I died in my 8th month of being gestated or whatever. I died in my 8th month. Now, I was still human, I still had a soul. Why did that happen? For me to experience it as a soul and go back and say, oh, do I want to experience more? I don't know. But for those two, the parents, to experience it, and you might have seen people who have experienced that, or maybe multiple people, and some people become such more giving and caring and loving people after an experience like that, and some people would become more bitter and cold and like, why is this happening to me, kind of thing. And in my scope of beliefs, the people who become more loving and caring after that are living a better life, and they're ascending, and the people who are being angry are not. They're kind of lowering
All
their
right, you just hit a nerve.
okay.
People are living a better life and they're ascending. I never thought I'd talk about this publicly, but in the 1970s, my father wrote a novel, and I've been fascinated ever since.
Okay.
And I'll tell you very briefly that in the novel, a guy has to bail out of a plane. He's flying alone, and he survives the plane crash, and he's able to swim to a deserted island. And he pulls himself up on the beach, and he's completely naked. He's lost everything. He doesn't have his watch on. He's completely naked, and he has to survive on his own. And in a sense, he goes through the evolutionary stages of being a human and getting fire and learning how to get food and clothe himself and survive as a human. It's like he's evolving, but he's evolving
Sure.
very fast because he has to survive.
Sure. Yeah. It's
And
great. I love that.
and over the course of the novel, at the end, he encounters human. Oh, I'm going to ruin it, but he encounters humans, and the humans he's spying on are putting someone to death. A primitive group of people are putting someone to death.
Mhm.
And he steps forward and sacrifices his life to save the person that he saw about to be put to death.
Okay.
And the point of the novel is that somewhere else, somebody is bailing out of a boat and swimming to shore, and they have to survive. And the same thing is going to happen. And the implication is that this guy, very quickly, not over hundreds of thousands or millions of years, but very quickly, has evolved through the stages of being human. And when he makes the ultimate sacrifice, his life for somebody else, he's experienced apotheosis, which, of course, is a word that means ascending to godlike status
Okay.
and become a god. Now, you said before, I believe I'm a part of God. We might actually be, through how we live, trying to become a god. And I focus on that all the time. I want to know what's next. I think about I struggle with what's next. Is it possible for a human being to ascend to the next level and assume the next level is godlike, not godlike, exactly God? You become a god? Can you become God? Is there only one
What's
God?
the word again? Say the word.
Apotheosis.
Apotheosis. Donnie Mayfield's favorite new word is apotheosis. And Carolyn Benson is out there. She's
Hi, Carolyn.
what's up,
Oh,
Carolyn?
Carolyn is there.
Yeah.
She's seeing my spiritual side, and here I am, Mr. Rational, Mr. Skeptic.
So I want to know why did that hit a nerve with you? I mean, that story doesn't that seem so? Yeah, I guess finish the story. So
You were talking about people doing the right thing.
right.
If you do the best advice somebody ever gave me, actually in my comedy career, because when you're a comedian coming up, it's about you. You're selfish. I would have killed my grandmother to get on earlier at the comic strip up on the Upper East Side. And I asked a comedian named Larry Miller, do you have any advice? And he said, do the right thing. And at the time, I thought that was do the right thing. How am I? I'm getting on now at 11:30. I got to get on at 9:30. How's that going to help me do the right thing? Of course, a couple of decades later, I realized that he gave me exactly the right advice. And
That's
if you
amazing.
do the right thing,
it's so easy.
I don't think it's easy. I think
you
have
don't
to.
think it's easy. You don't think it's easy to
It
just
hasn't been easy for me. It
be
was
a
not
good person and do the right thing.
Do the right thing. When I was younger, I think with age comes wisdom. I really do believe that. And I hate the old guy telling.
But I disagree. If you think not doing the right thing is wisdom, then we're at a disagreement.
Wait. Doing the right thing. Learn as you get older.
Doing the right thing is the wisdom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then we're in agreement. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we're total agreement. Yeah. I'm sorry.
You want to do the right thing. You don't want to do something selfish. You don't want to do something wrong. You don't want to hurt somebody else for your own benefit. Just be nice. Just relax and be nice.
Carolyn says the thing she loves about you is that you don't realize the power you have, and I'm going to agree with her. Like you just said it. That was the best advice you ever got. So the spirituality to me is exactly that. Just knowing that you're accountable for what you do, and if you're going to come into the room and you're going to be a dick, you're going to bring that kind of energy into a room, and some people are going to react, and some people are going to be like, whatever, and whatever. So you're responsible for that. You make a choice. You make all of these choices. Do I feel like there are layers and layers of fears and I don't know what the right word was, but just the way people act is like all of these layers of ideas that have been put on them during their life and during I
We
don't
are
want
the
to get into
sum of our lives. We are what we've eaten, but we are what we've seen, what we've heard, what we've felt most of all. I always say this to people: if two comedians get into a car and they've got to drive 3 hours to a gig, and I should say two male comedians get into a car and they have to drive 3 hours to a gig,
Do you
they
want to be
get
any more specific or no?
they get in. No, this is all male comedians. When they close the door, one says to the other, first thing, "So, do you want to talk about your father first, or should I?" Because so many male comedians have issues with their father, and fathers have so much power. And I have unresolved issues with my father, and my father's been
Yeah.
gone since 1996. And why am I still thinking about it? Why am I still even angry about things? Why can't I let go? Give me an answer. I'll give you a copay if you can give me an answer and help me let
You know
go.
what? You know what you said. I missed my calling as a session. Let's set up some sessions and let's talk, man. I feel like I can get it out of you. I feel like I can help you resolve that. I really do, and I think that's a huge issue right now, and part of what's going on in the world of politics and all, and just the world in general, is this unresolved trauma from just the way things were. And I'm not saying that there wasn't good things about the way things were. I mean, the world is totally different from when you and I grew up,
It's
and
supposed to be. It's
it's
supposed to.
supposed to be. Absolutely, it's supposed to be.
Thank
But there are some things that are really hard to understand for you and I. And I'm gonna take a little break. I think we're gonna go a little long with this show. I'm
you.
gonna take
Uh-oh.
a little break because we have some people in the audience again. Carolyn is saying she's spoken to many people who love you, a lot of respect for you. Tim is
Thank you,
saying
Carol. That's
we
so
all
nice.
wear the coats of many colors. Lori, who's here, hey Lori, pay it forward always, give love. That's kind of what you were saying. Do the right thing. It's just like be accountable for your actions. You know what I mean? Just be accountable, man. Would you don't treat someone like you wouldn't want to be treated. That's it. So here's the segue, and that is Carolyn is saying, what about Rosie? So I just want people who may not have seen Peter before to see some of his comedy from his heyday, his prime. He had an amazing stand-up career as a stand-up comedian. We're going to talk about after we come back. Sorry about that. After we come back, we're going to talk about what you're doing now with Tiedin at the studio and Stand-Up University, your own thing that you're doing. And before we do that, we're going to watch a quick clip, and I believe you and I get to kind of sit on the side and comment. So if you have something to say, you can. If you want to just watch it, you can. So here we go.
The show right along. You ready, Peter? Comes a
I'm
friend of
ready.
mine you all know and love here in this crowd. Yes, you do. Works all over the country. Originally from Long Island, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Bales.
Wow. Down here.
I'm going to be funny. I promise you I will be funny. A lot of you are worried. You're thinking, how can this guy be funny? He looks just like Father Mulcahy. Every time I say that, about 50 people go, he does. He looks just like Father Mulcahy. It's worse. When I take my glasses off, I look like another TV character, Gopher from Love Boat. How about Pat Sajak? I've been getting that a lot lately. John Denver with my glasses back on, or Radar from MASH. The best I can say about everybody I look like is that they're totally harmless. It's a little depressing. But I do a routine for everybody out there who wears glasses like I do. Don't you hate when somebody comes up to you and says, can I try on your glasses? Because every time they take them from you, put them on, and stand there and go, God, you are blind. What do you say to that? Yes, I am blind. Would you like to buy a pencil? That's so rude. It's like grabbing somebody's wig and going, God, you're bald. I have a nice announcement. It is the season for babies. I've been married about 2 years, and in about a month and a half, my wife and I are expecting our first baby. So isn't that nice? Thank you. You know what I'm dealing with? I'm dealing with the issue of sex during pregnancy. Now, I know that doctors tell you physically it's perfectly all right. It's just that mentally I keep thinking the baby's going to bite me. Do you have that? Anyway. Now, before I was a comedian, I was a school teacher. Who can guess what subject I would teach as a school teacher? History is correct. And who yelled out driver's ed? Somebody in this section? Yes, I was a history teacher, and I taught grades 5 through 12. What do you think is the toughest grade for a teacher to deal with in terms of behavior? 7th grade, because the guys are going through puberty. Everything in their minds is sex. I've seen 7th grade boys walking down the hall, spazzing their heads up and down, moving their heads all around. I finally figured out why they do that. It's from hours and hours of watching the scrambled Playboy channel. And as a teacher, you really see how little kids pick up the good side and the bad side of their parents. One kid told me that when he grows up, he wants to rid the world of all prejudice and chinks. I'll tell you, I always wanted to teach sex education. I always wanted to stand in front of a class and say, class, this is the female sexual organ. Thank you, Lisa. You can sit down now. I was not a good student myself growing up, but I had a brother who could get straight A's because he had a photographic memory. He could look at something once and just, boom, have it memorized. I could not do that. My father was very nice the way he explained it to me. He said, I also had a photographic memory. The only difference was I had no film. So I became a comedian. I'm into my 30s now. If you're over 30, you relate to this. You get those depressing signs as you're getting older. I had one a couple weeks ago. I was in my car. A John Denver song came on the radio. I left it on. Hey, I just got a call from a high school friend. He was really depressed. He said he was getting older. I said, okay, what happened? He goes, I just bought a station wagon. I said, come on, that's not so bad. He goes, but it has wood paneling on the side. I want you to remember my name. My name is Peter Bales, spelled B-A-L-E-S, a very simple name. But without fail, the first day of school, the teacher used to read my name off the list and say, Peter Balls. And the guys would tease me. All year, my nickname would be Balls. And I hated that. And I thought when I was done with school, I was done with hearing that. But without fail, at least twice a year in a restaurant, I still hear, Balls, party of 2. 2 balls. And I have to walk to the podium. Hello, I'm Balls. This is my wife, Testes. Thank you. You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Totally
awesome.
great.
Sweating.
No, that was good stuff. That was really funny.
Actually, in comedy, unlike music, you can hear the laughter or you don't hear the laughter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was hearing laughter, although, you know, I couldn't do those jokes today because nobody, they had no film. Young people today don't even know what film is.
Right.
Well, much of the audience has never seen MASH or Love Boat.
Right.
You know, John Denver has faded from a lot of people's memories.
Yeah. No, but the comedy was definitely relevant. I mean, it was definitely. I think I was saying before I called you Bob Saget. It definitely had the vibe of, you know, the comedy that was going on at that time. That was more on the wholesome side, the more wholesome side of comedy. You know, I mean, there was a little bit of dirtiness in there, but you know, then there was the dirty
actually obviously no 4-letter words, but adult material, and that's
some of the material was adult.
But I'll tell you something,
but not lewd. It wasn't lewd.
No, but I'll tell you how times are better. We all saw the joke that I did, and it cracked off the eye. It got a big laugh. It always did in the clubs. As a teacher, you see how little kids pick up the good side and the bad side of their parents. One kid told me when he grows up, he wants to rid the world of all prejudice and chinks. And that joke got a big laugh in the 80s. And then in the late 90s, society changed, times
Right.
changed. People stopped laughing at it as loudly, and the laughs went down.
Right.
I, in my heart, didn't feel good about it, and I had to cut it. So your
Mhm.
strongest joke
Mhm.
in the late 80s has to be cut from your act because it's not right by the time you get to the late 90s.
Right.
And I agree with that. I agree that was today that would be mean and unacceptable
Right.
ethnic humor that nobody thought twice about, in 19 I think that must have been
But
19.
so you're bringing up a good point, though, because I laughed at it. Did I feel a little ping of guilt? Probably yes, and I probably would have even back then, felt that little oh, like that's funny, but whoa, but ooh, and I think I guess the thing about it for me is that bothers me is that it's comedy. Like, lighten up, Francis. You know what I mean? It's like, but
Well,
I do understand. I feel like you said, society changed, and there's this group mentality of, wait a second, if it's offending somebody, then I shouldn't be laughing because somebody's being offended.
right.
And I don't know. I mean, I agree with that in a lot of ways. Listen, there's a good spiritual kind of dilemma there with it, because I think it's not really meant to hurt anybody. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah,
meant with
intent is important, but still, we should be nicer to each other, and if we can,
absolutely,
let's do it. And
absolutely,
I believe political correctness can go overboard, but I also believe in the idea that, by making an effort, we can be nicer to each other, and I think there's a happy medium there. And I am glad that I don't do that joke anymore. But
right,
we were watching history,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Uh, I
Things
was
change.
I was in my 30s. My first wife, was having my first son, and
Oh wow, and it's funny because as you were saying that, I was like thinking, oh wow, I never talked to Peter about his son, and
I
I
have two.
wonder,
I have two sons,
yeah,
that joke about sex during pregnancy, and I'm always afraid that the
that's a
baby's
funny
going to
joke
bite
too.
me.
Yeah, that's
What a
funny.
great joke, but it's not. I
Yeah.
can't do it. I can't do it as an older man. I mean,
Right, right,
my
right,
wife's not pregnant, but what a great
right,
joke for the time.
right, right, right,
For the time, I've had to. You have to change your act as you change.
right.
Okay.
Sure.
I've seen comedians be killer comedians, wonderful, powerful comedians, and they're overweight. And then they lose the weight and
Hmm.
they lose the funny.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, of course, they're healthier, God bless you, but
Right,
you've got to change as times change and as you change. And
right.
now in my act, you've seen it. I
Yeah,
do a lot of jokes about looking older. And
right.
actually, the person that I look like when I open my act, just to relax the audience, is Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Who remembers Gopher on Love Boat?
But
Like,
it's see, so it's the same joke, and it's like
the
it's
same joke,
still
but you have to update it.
it's
What?
still on target though, because people are still like, oh yeah, he does look like Jerry Springer. You hit something funny there, and it's the same concept. It's the same joke that
In 1980, 79 or 80, when I started out, I was friends with Jerry Seinfeld, and I was trying to write material, and he was at the comic strip every night, and so was I. And I was working on this joke about going to the bank and not having money, and
Mhm.
the bank teller decides to make fun of me because I don't have any money. And Seinfeld looks at me and he goes, last night I went to the deli, not the deli, the bagel shop across the street, and I waited online for like half an hour. And when I got to the front of the line, I ordered one bagel. And he said that the cashier looked at him and said, "One bagel, huh? You having a party?" And I took that and I put it into the bank. And I said, you know, I said to the bank teller, you know, I gave her my bank book. Remember bank books? I
Yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah.
I gave her my bank book. I said, I have $15 in my account and I want to take out five. And the bank teller goes, "You having a party?" That joke used to work every time in the 80s. And then when you get to be an older man, it's not believable that you're that broke. You know, in other words, when you're in your 20s, the
Right,
joke
right,
made sense because a
right,
lot of
right.
people in their 20s, especially comedians, are broke. But then I'm older and I have who believes I have $15 in my account? I mean,
Right.
you know, you've got to change with the times. And
Totally. Totally. Well, I love that Carolyn saying, I think it's pretty amazing that Peter Bales was giving all these guys, Seinfeld and other people, their jokes. And I want to talk about stand-up memories because that's exactly what that's all about. And one of my favorite things is the intro to season 1 where you're like, I told Eddie Murphy to stay in school. That's one of my favorite things. But
it's
let
true.
me back up a second and let's take this time. Let's plug you and talk about you for a little bit. And then we can wrap it up. But I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but I do have this. And you started talking about politics and Long Island, and I'm not sure what exactly happens in this, but I have this.
Oh, you have my novel, Long Live Long Island. Uh,
And
and there it is.
yeah, so tell me about this. Is this political? I mean, it looks like it might be.
It's you know what it takes. First of all, it takes place in 1980, so it's how relevant is it? It's a local story about a bunch of friends in their 30s who band together, and the lead character Brian runs for mayor of a fictional Long Island town called Sagamore. There is no Long Island town called Sagamore, but there should be. It sounds like it.
Well,
And
there's a Sagamore Hills, no?
there are
Sagamore.
some evil forces who want to build a bridge from Sagamore, this beautiful North Shore town with estates and you know and nature, and they want to pave it over for a bridge across to Rye, New York, which Robert Moses tried to do, of course, in the 60s. And they band together to fight the bridge and for the environment and fight the powers that be. And it's really funny. There are funny parts of it. There are scary parts of it. It's the gang trying to stay together and do the right thing. That's what
Mm.
I'm not going to tell you how it turns out, but
Okay.
that's what it is. It's fun. It's for the beach. It's not politics like national politics at all. It's a local story about a guy who runs for mayor. And he's
Awesome.
not based on me, although everybody who reads the book says it's based on me. I didn't mean it to be based on me.
It sounds like there might be some history thrown in there,
There is.
brought into the story, and then some personal experience brought into
There,
this.
there
Is
are.
this available on Amazon? People can get this on
It is.
Amazon.
Long live Long Island.
There you go.
Peter
Long
Bales.
live
Thank you for the
Long
plug.
Island. You got it. No problem. And that will segue into kind of what you're doing now. And let's even do a prequel to Stand Up Memories. And let's talk about your other endeavor, which is Stand Up University. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that's so nice of you. Stand up. Did you make that? I've never seen that graphic before.
That is on your website. That's where I got
Oh,
it
it
from.
is. It's new. I should go see my own
Yeah,
website.
your website does look like it was updated.
It is just
We
recently
talked
updated.
about that. We talked about that. It needed to
Yeah,
be,
we
but
did. Okay, it's updated.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
why I haven't seen it. Cool.
yeah. And
Stand
it's
Up
funny.
University is the place where, if you've dreamed about doing stand up comedy and you just don't know how to start, we're a welcoming place to come and create your first 5-6 minutes of material and perform for your family and friends and get that first set out of the way that is so nerve-wracking, so scary, and can go badly if you're not in a supportive atmosphere. And we are a supportive atmosphere. And please, standupuniversity.com. We've got another class starting in January. Come and do it. If it's on your bucket list,
Amazing.
do it. And I
Yeah.
got to tell you, even if you're a comedian, and I hope some comedians are watching right now, and you want to get a new 5 minutes, come join our class as well. New stuff. We'll get you new stuff. And new folks who've never done it before, take the first step. Standupuniversity.com.
Awesome. So I'm gonna just extrapolate a little bit on that because I did get to experience a little bit of that with Paul Mahas, who was taking the whole class. I wasn't available the whole time, but I will say it is exactly what I thought it would be. It's really it's an experience. I think not anyone who's not even if you're just looking to be a comedian, but if you're looking to just kind of learn how to talk to people and be on stage and just be confident with what you're saying and be a little funny. I think it's really deep, and it's not just like, all right, we'll tell you how to tell jokes. It really goes into the philosophy of
Yes.
why a joke is funny, how to take things in your own life, like that's what, like you were saying, like a lot of comedy is based on that person's experience, and that's why maybe a lot of comedians are so effed up, and comedy is the way that they work it out, you know what I mean? So that
Yeah,
is
true.
that is Stand Up University, which I definitely would recommend for anyone. I know that we used to have a watcher, Neil, who did stand up, like he went to the live open mic, so that would be perfect for him.
Yes,
um
we prepare you to hit the open mics. We'll take a year off your development. You'll hit the open mics, and you'll look like you know what you're doing.
and it's 5 weeks of class, and the sixth week
The
is
sixth week is a
you actually get
recital. It's
to,
a show before supportive family and friends. And the seventh week, we watch the videotape and enjoy pizza and critique in a positive way. And we send you off in the world as a comedian with an act
and a certificate, right?
and a certificate suitable for a refrigerator magnet.
It's awesome. It's really a wonderful experience. So that will bring us to the current day, and Carolyn is begging for you to tell a story of you and anyone, but that's really what you do on Stand Up Memories, right?
Oh,
Stand
now
Up Memories.
this is stand-up memories. And we do it at Tiedin Media in Plainview. Such a great group of people. We have a wonderful studio and set and such high production values. And it's fun and supportive. And the title is perfect. You've got me, you've got Jack. That's Jackie the Joke Man Martling from the Howard Stern Show and movies and other television shows. And he's the best joke teller on the planet. And we share literally memories of our childhood, memories growing up, memories of things that happened in our careers, things that go wrong at comedy shows. Most of the time, things go right at comedy shows. And we are entering now into our third season. We started out with Jackie and I, building a foundation, really getting to know each other in the first season and having wonderful memories, sharing funny stories. We always share jokes and funny stories.
Yeah, great. Some
And
really great
you
stories.
know what our agenda is on Stand Up Memories? Having fun, having laughs, sharing memories, stuff people can relate to. We don't do politics. We don't do controversial issues. We have fun with a capital F. And we've had some interesting guests on. And now we are delving into having stand-up comedians on. And they say things on our show that they don't expect to say. They say more on our show. We get them to open up. We have so many laughs, but they say things about their personal lives that you're not going to hear elsewhere. And Michael, we were just talking about this. We've been inviting comedians' wives on and husbands on.
Right.
So you see their spouse, how is it like to be married to a stand-up comedian? How can you live in that crazy world?
Right.
And you do see that comedians are kind of nuts, and sometimes they have a spouse that's kind of nuts, and you get a peek behind the scenes of stand up at what goes wrong. It's just fun. It's just stand up.
I gotta say, if it continues along the line that we of the episode that we just filmed with Carrie Carabas, it's definitely going to get exciting and a lot of views, because that was some really funny.
Carrie Carabas is an amazing comedian, and she shared a lot about her personal life, and you get to meet her husband, and they're both nuts. How about that?
It was so entertaining. I mean, I'm a fan of stand-up comedy, so for me, I'm interested. But even if you're not a fan of stand-up comedy, it's those episodes are all about relationships.
We had the wonderful Joey Cola and his wife Leonora on.
Yeah.
And I'm tearing up because, they didn't plan this, but they remember when we sat alone in the living room and we were broke and we said we're in this together. We have a lot of laughs, but sometimes these moments that are pretty heavy and cool to see.
Yep, yep,
We've got
absolutely.
scheduled the great Chris Monty. We get terrific guests, and as I say, I love the gang at Tiedin Media, and you guys are so supportive. And it's
Yeah,
great working with the one and only Jackie the Joke Man,
yeah.
Martling from Howard Stern, and
Would you say, I mean, I would agree. I remember when I was a kid calling the joke line, at 15
yeah.
years old, I was like calling the joke line, and it would be like, what and he would tell you these dirty, dirty jokes. And I mean, I was a kid, so I was like, oh my God, these dirty jokes. Would you say, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Jackie, and I think he is, I think you said he's like the best joke teller. But I think to kind of justify that, if you've ever met Jackie, I think, would you say he's a dying breed?
I think what he does is a lost art. Let's put it that way.
Okay, that's fair. Another fair way
Telling,
to.
there's comedy material, which you saw in my clip, and then there's what Jackie does, which is tell classic jokes better than anybody else. And he
Right.
knows the funny ones, and he knows how to do them, and he knows how to put them in order. And I travel with him. I open for him a lot, and it's just an amazing show. It's just fun. It's just laughs from start to finish, and you can't stump him. He knows he's got this mind that knows every joke ever written. I had a joke from 1894. I thought for sure 1894, and I got 3 words out, and he finished the joke.
That's hysterical.
So that's and of course everybody knows him from Howard Stern, and there's a lot more to Jackie than you heard on Howard Stern, and Stand Up Memories is a great place to.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, I liked Howard Stern. I thought Howard Stern was all right, but I wasn't a huge fan. I wasn't like, I didn't listen, and I don't think I really know much of Jackie's career during that time. I know more of his self-made career because I'm from Long Island. So I remember when he had albums coming out, it was like, I mean, him, and also, who was the other guy? I used to get them confused. I don't get them confused anymore, but John Valby.
John
Because
Valby.
John
Oh,
Valby, right?
yeah,
'Cause
John
he was
Valby. Yeah.
making his own records and doing his own thing, kind of, that kind of thing. Tim is saying he's definitely going to check it out. He's a big fan of stand-up, especially New Yorkers from the 80s. And he might actually, Tim, are you coming to Long Island? Regarding stand-up university, that sounds cool. A lot of people say I should try stand-up, but I don't think I have the balls to do it. And man, you go to this class and you will instantly.
That's what we're all about, man. We
What
make
we're
you feel comfortable. We're not judgmental. You are welcome. Everybody's welcome, no matter who you are. And thank you for checking out Stand Up Memories. Standupmemories.com. Very simple, right, Michael? That's how you find us.
That's it.
We're on all the platforms. So check us. It's a fun podcast. And we have new episodes every Wednesday, right?
Yep, every Wednesday, working on season 3, and I love it. I'm really proud of being a part of it, and I feel grateful for, from day one. I felt grateful. I didn't know you at the time, but I felt right away that you were, we had a good vibe, which is why he came on the live stream, because I just knew you would, you'd be able to hang with the live stream and just, talk about stuff being and
I remember the first time I saw you. I knew you were spiritual. You were naked, meditating on the set, and I said, "Wow, this guy is a little bit strange." But you got dressed, and you helped us with the show. It was so.
That's awesome. I just got to chill, Peter, because I feel like I just became the part of an actual stand-up comedian's joke, like a real stand-up.
I
don't
know if it hit because we're doing a podcast and there's no live audience.
It hit me. It was funny. It was.
I mean, I feel it's great that you have all of these people watching and they're chatting. And I'm not the host, but I want to thank your listeners and your watchers. Thank you so much. I mean,
Awesome.
And thank you for your nice comments. I mean, this show is a good feeling show.
It is a good feeling show, and really, my intention is first, I think that's what the show's all about, intention, and that's back to the spiritual conversation. Like I started doing this, and it became something I committed to. Every Thursday I showed up. That little just show up thing I have is just show up, and I've gotten to have the most amazing conversations. I think that we talked about it. I had a viewer Courtney, who asked me to do this other show, Strange and Wonderful, who brought me into this whole other world of people having relationships with dolls and people who were tattooed from head to toe and had body modification. But we had these amazing conversations, and I felt myself expand. I felt my brain expand. I felt my heart expand as a human being. I felt us connecting. I feel like that's my mission, to connect the collective consciousness one at a time.
Well, one of the best things about you articulated before, is you're not judgmental. You're open-minded, and you're welcoming, and you want to hear other points of view, even if they're out there. You know, what traditionally would be seen as out there. Well, maybe they're not really so out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe they're not really that out there.
Right.
And, you know, here I am, Mr. Educated, and yet I'm open. I've seen things. I told you my ghost story.
Yeah.
I have to tell you this. I was in a diner with a woman who represented herself as a medium.
Mhm.
And I didn't, she was nice, and we were having a bunch of people, we're having a good time. I didn't really believe it, but she was nice, and we're having a good time. And she got really angry at the waitress. The waitress was rude. I saw it. I was sitting right there. I saw it. The waitress was rude. She got really angry at the waitress. And I saw her scrunch up her face, glare daggers at this waitress as this waitress walked away, walked behind the counter, picked up a glass, and right before my eyes, as she was giving her daggers, the glass exploded in the waitress's hand.
No.
I saw it. Michael, Michael, I saw it.
I love it. Are you just making that up for me for
I'm not
the show?
making it up. I'm not making it up.
That's awesome.
I am not making it up. I swear.
That's amazing.
True. I saw it.
Amazing. Awesome.
Peter,
I think you know, we've talked about it actually, where we're going to meditate together. I think through our friendship, I think you might experience some different things, just like you said, just to answer some questions, or just to even maybe generate some questions. Who knows?
To be honest with you right now, and I will be honest, somebody who is sometimes a control freak, I'm a little bit scared of that, losing control and learning things that that are inside me that maybe I'm not in touch with, that I've forgotten. I'm just being honest.
Listen, this is where we wander into copay territory right now.
You know what I mean? You know,
listen, Peter, I really appreciate what you're saying, and that you're being so vulnerable on the show. And I love the fact that you're even like, wow, I'm scared of this, but maybe I should address that. Like, you're even questioning like the idea that you're feeling something in regard to something. So, you know, what do you even know? You know, who knows? You know, what? I love
I'll tell you this. There's some people, I don't know what your beliefs are about hypnosis, but there are some people that believe that hypnosis can help you open up and access your feelings easier and better. And and so much of me would like to try hypnosis, and yet a lot of me is afraid of what I'll find.
Right. Sure. And I think, and you know what, I think that's why a lot of people don't even go there. They're just like, you know, they just brush it off like it's honky, whatever. But listen, I've seen some amazing things. We'll talk. You know, we'll talk.
All right, we will.
We'll talk, and I can definitely introduce you to some people who, you know, you decide whose vibration, you know, you feel. You know, that's it. You just, you know, you gotta trust the person that you're talking to, and that's it. And I love that you're so open to it, and that's really awesome. I forgot what I was going to say. I wanted to talk about something, but Steve Sage is there. Awesome. Good to see Steve out there. Awesomeness.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, I wanted to bring up Carla's comment. So Carla is also, she's spiritual. She does a practice called the Violet Flame. There's a lot to it. I can't really get into it. She was on the show. She's a channeler and all of this stuff, but she is saying she would love to try it. She's talking about Stand Up University, and I think, Carla, that would be perfect for you to just help as a public speaker, just to help. She does, she speaks and does spiritual stuff, but I think it would be really perfect for her to. So I'm gonna make a lot of connections.
All right,
here.
Carla.
Yeah. We're making a lot of connections here. Totally.
Yeah, that's great.
Tim is saying my ex-wife had hypnotherapy to help her deal with 25 plus personalities. She's not sure what he thinks about it. Yeah, Tim is somebody who's been viewing the show since day one, and he's actually going to be on the show. Tim, I'm going to get in touch with you after the show.
Hey, Tim, I think I know why she's your ex-wife with 25 personalities.
He's got some amazing stories, and
that's great. He's going to be on the show. Oh, that's great. He had parts of his stomach removed. He was very sick, and he had all of these things happen to him, and he kept this positive attitude, and eventually he met this amazingly beautiful woman, went to Brazil where she lived, ended up having a baby with her and getting married, and he is like in such great shape now. So he's such a great story for the show. So he's going to be on the show eventually. So Tim is I'm a control freak. Tim is in Brazil.
He may be in Brazil at the moment. He comes back and forth between
because
Brazil.
My Spanish joke from the beginning of the show is inappropriate because in Brazil they speak Portuguese. Oh my God, we've got to start over. We've got to start over here.
That's great. That's great. Steve says Peter, that's a whole show right there of material.
All right.
Yeah. And Carolyn is saying good night, and people are saying thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Peter, thank you so much. I'm really happy that we had this, and like I said, I feel like we can even be more friends now and talk about some other stuff that we never.
Michael, this is terrific. This is a terrific show. Thank you. I'm honored to have been your guest.
Thank you.
I mean that.
I'm going to put you backstage for a second. I'm going to sign off and don't go anywhere. I want to.
All right.
Awesome, Peter. Thanks. Wow. Yes, another great night. Look at the smile on my face. How happy I am. This is amazing. I really appreciate everybody who comes and watches these conversations, and the feedback that I get. And I would love people to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I try not to say so much anymore, but the conversations are uplifting. They're real. And if you have somebody that you think should be on the show, send them my way. If you want to be on the show, tell me what you want to talk about. And if I think you're appropriate and we can have a great conversation about where you're at spiritually and what your beliefs are, you're welcome here. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Jilly. Thank you, Steve Sage. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I will see you guys next week. Who do I have next week? I forgot who I have next week. Let me look at my calendar. I think next week I have William Conway, who is actually another stand-up comedian. He's also an ex-convict. He's been in jail and has some stories about how he comes from a family of preachers and all of that stuff. So his spirituality and how he kept sane and alive and how he's doing today. So join me next week for William Conway, and I will see you there. Peace. Thank you.